Hey everyone, it's Katelyn. I'm here in Chicago at the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within seminar. I don't have a lot of time to talk and I'm still in the midst of getting ready, but our days seem like they're going to be about 18-hour days. So with eating and getting ready, that leaves me about 3 hours for sleeping. And as you can tell, after day one, I'm already starting to lose my voice. But I just wanted to recap while it was fresh in my mind, kind of what we did on the first day of Unleash the Power Within, and some of the ways that that can be applied. So one of the main things that was focused on in day one was really boiling down our fears to two basic fears, which Tony classifies as either we're not good enough or that we're not going to be loved. And you can certainly think how anything that you might be trying to do or that you're afraid of does boil down to that. With the coaching business, oftentimes I think it's easy to feel overwhelmed or like we may not be able to do something as well as another successful coach. And really what that comes down to is that we're not good enough, or that we're worried that people won't be interested, or that we won't be able to help, and or maybe people might judge us, and that's also, I think, something that goes to not being loved. So kind of what we talked about was, what we did was kind of write down some of these fears we had. Part of the big event yesterday was burning them in a fire and then walking out, which I'm about to tell you about. But we also partnered up and kind of talked with a partner about it. And in just that act of doing that, it made the fear seem smaller or less important. And the way Tony describes this is it's kind of disassociating ourselves from it. We're kind of putting it outside of ourselves, which I thought was a really important concept to focus on. And the second thing that we spent a lot of time yesterday was getting ourselves in a certain state. If we're trying to do something, if we want to be able to help people, or if we want to work out and look a certain way, it all kind of boils down to how we want to feel. We want to feel good about ourselves. And so the point of yesterday was to be able to get ourselves in that kind of emotional state just like that, without needing those external circumstances or all our problems to be solved in order to do that. So it was, we were up and down a lot, jumping around, and we can change our physiology in a very physical way, kind of conjure up certain emotions, how we talk, the language we use, and what we're focusing on. So in life, we all know if we focus on what we don't have rather than what we have, oftentimes, we won't feel fulfilled or we won't be happy. And it's important to focus on what we don't have a small portion of the time so we can change that or improve our lives, but for the most part we want to be focusing on what we have. So kind of what the entire afternoon was designed to do was get us into this peak mental and emotional state to be ready for the FIREWALK at night. So so we did everything from we were jumping around constantly, which I think was a necessity anyway, because sitting in the chairs for that long without being up and moving, I think you'd probably keel over at some point. And I think, like I said, I think the weekend's going to be about 18-hour days each day, so I'm assuming it's kind of a necessity. But also, conjuring up memories where we felt empowered or just really like we were so strong and we could handle anything. Also conjuring up memories of pure love or happiness, and then conjuring up memories of joy and laughter. At one part, Tony had us in kind of a meditative state where we were all laying on the ground, and he would have us do kind of certain triggers to associate it with, which for us was squeezing a fist, and conjure up those memories and think so deeply about it. And the laughter one was incredible, because you actually got to a point where you were laughing out loud. You were thinking about some funny, ridiculous moment in your life where you couldn't stop laughing, and so you kind of brought that out in you again, and then it kind of became, the whole room is laughing, and we were just hysterical laughing at each other. So at any rate, it was about, I would say the main portion of this mental and emotional training was about 5 hours, and it was pretty challenging. I mean, honestly, I think everybody was exhausted. It was one of the most challenging yet charged up days of my life. I really felt like I have never felt emotionally or mentally quite as at a certain level as I felt yesterday, which was just incredible. So the idea of the FIREWALK, we walked across there were about 12-foot beds of hot coals. We walked long-wise. These coals are about 2,200 degrees. So when I came here yesterday, I had heard about it, and I knew we were going to do it, and I figured, of course I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be, one of the ones that doesn't. I won't leave here without doing it. But as Tony talked about it and the seriousness of it, if you're not in that peak mental and emotional state, the impact of what we were about to do really set in. So, like I said, he spent about 5 hours getting us into this crazy meditative, just other level, almost out of body experience. And kind of to prepare for it, like I said, you have to really be in, he just calls it in state. And me being an engineer, obviously I love the science behind it. And the science behind it, in the simplified way that Tony described, was if you think about somebody that has lost a limb, and often they talk about having that phantom limb where they can still, they may have lost their right arm, but they can still feel it. And I guess they've actually measured that your body does generate electrical signals that when measured, or when there are scans done of these, they actually perfectly shape a hand that's not there. So the idea of this is to be in such an emotional and mental state that we're actually projecting energy from our body. There's so much current running through our body that it counteracts the heat of the coals, and you don't feel it. So this is not something that anybody should try at home. We had a lot of training about what we had to do, how we had to walk directly, walk at a certain pace, and what we had to be in before they would let us go, what kind of state. So we're walking up to this fire, and we're clapping, and we're just so charged up, and we have these motions that we're doing to get us in state. It was one of the coolest things. There's tribal drums blaring, and it was so incredible. And you can't hesitate. You can't have any fear, or that's what you focus on. And you can get severely injured, and your feet would burn. So basically what they had us do, we step up onto the grass at the front of the pit, and we had to do our motions. We're screaming, we're so charged up, and there's somebody watching you, and they can tell when you're in that emotional state, and they say go, and you have to go, and there's somebody guiding you, and you just take, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 steps, gets you about the 12 feet through the hot coals. And I know for me, it was just the most incredible experience. You truly couldn't feel it. You were looking up, you were visualizing something else. Cool moss was what we had to say, just to, our other visualization. So we're not even looking at the coals, we're looking up, we're saying this to ourselves, and we're just feeling in state. And as we walk, again, there's somebody guiding us. They scoop you up at the end, they hose you off, because as soon as you come out of state, you could get really burned if there's coals still stuck to your feet, which I actually do have a small burn, a little blister, but nothing major, nothing that I had to get treated. But it was weird, because at the end, I remember halfway through kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't feel anything, and my mind went to my feet. And even though I was still in state, I think I started to come out of state a little bit, and the very last step, I could start to feel it on my left foot. But again, Tony said even the gray coals that don't look like they're hot are 1,200 degrees. We had orange, red, burning embers that are about 2,200 degrees. So, I mean, this is not joking around, and we were actually able to do this. It was one of the coolest things. We partnered up beforehand, like I said, the person that we were kind of sharing what our fears were, and the person I partnered to was a wonderful girl named Danielle, and it was just so cool to be at the other side with her and celebrating that we'd just done this. One of the things it reminded me of was, if you're familiar, I've talked about Wayne Dyer and the Tao Te Ching, his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And one of the things it talks about is that in that book, they kind of generalize our fear to be our fear of dying. So they say you can't have that fear of dying if you have no physical attachment to your body, that you have no attachment to your physical body. And so we are limitless beings, infinite beings, so we always need to be connected to that. And if you start to have attachments to your body, then you start to have those fears about dying. So this was just one of those cool most incredible experiences, because walking across those coals, there was no mental or emotional attachment to my body. You know, I'm in this state, and that's all I was thinking about. And so in reading that book about a year ago, I had felt that was the one concept that was really hard to grasp, you know, to not have that attachment to our body. And it was just, it kind of felt like I finally, I not only grasped the concept, but I achieved it for that 10 seconds or so that we were walking across the coals. So I don't know exactly how many people did it. I know there was 5,000 people at this conference, and I saw majority of the people do it. So it was just 25 rows of hot coals, one right after another. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. So I'm just so incredibly charged up. I feel like, and not do I feel like, I know I can do anything. Like, to get in that state and to just get back in that state is so easy for us to conjure up now, just like that. And it really applies to anything in our life that we're struggling with or we're having fears with. So that's my recap for day one. I know I talked for a while, but it was honestly one of the most emotionally, mentally challenging, charged, incredible, crazy, most insane days of my life. And I have no idea what the rest of the weekend holds. I'll be giving you guys updates. So if you have more questions on anything I talked about, I'm sure I could go on for hours about this, because it was probably, they say it's a day that changed your life, and I definitely felt like that. So I could talk for hours about this. So if you have questions about anything I specifically talked about, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys soon about the rest of the weekend.